How hard is it to move on from a toxic relationship? That's the focus of this, Depraved and Debaucherous. I'm a king of podcasts. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for watching. If you're watching here on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Click on the button. Make sure to go do that. As I go into this video and to this program right here, let's talk about it. Story from yourtango.com. And they say that with tiny bits of courage inside, being told that the person that was toxic with you misses you, it's not right. But you can't help but feel the void that you caused, that was caused in your world. So this is from Sarah Ada, who actually wrote kind of a tribute to the person that she was with, saying, "We had tons of good moments that I still reminisce and dwell on. They're also the ones that helped me unsee all that toxicity. But since the day you left, my eyes have been open again. The realization woken up that you will not be here anymore. Your farewell has been paralyzing my hands from writing." And then she goes on and says she misses the way they were close, the infinite and selfless love we used to have, making her face radiate euphoria that everybody kept commenting about it. The names you were called, the outings, the times, gazing at the stars. It's a very touching point. But also she notices the parts that made her feel good about herself, which normally in a toxic relationship, that usually only goes along for, say, about a fifth to a fourth of the entire length of the relationship. So if you're in a toxic relationship with somebody for a year, it only lasted a month. The real enjoyment of the relationship probably only lasted 1 month, maybe two. Because then that's just enough to latch you in from somebody that is a narcissistic, controlling, manipulative, unfaithful person. They'll do just enough at the very beginning, and it'll be just like a rush of euphoria, as she said, to make you say, "Oh, you know what? Now I want to be a part of this." Okay. But then she talks about can't find to miss as a relationship was mostly toxic. And then she talks about seeing the endless fights, the way you want to dominate, the way you always felt your manhood was threatened, the way you get jealous from any other person approaching me, the way you felt competitive with the world, the way you rage. And then she takes apart the real anguish and the horror that she really dealt with in this toxic relationship. And the problem is, it was all that little bit of good that was going on that made her stick around to continue the suffering, to stay in something that was unhappy and unhealthy for her. She says here now, I don't remember much of our romantic details. I remember you controlling whom I talk to and who I go out with. I remember you criticizing me, my family, my friends. I remember you getting all vulnerable from every joke I make. You letting people come between us. You always giving me less than what I deserve. You're nagging about things that I didn't want to do, deliberately perceiving my strengths as flaws, and then accusing her of isolation from the entire world. That you suffocated him, and that you were selfish for always wanting to see him whenever you had the chance. And then she mentions about, I remember abstaining from many things that I wanted to do just for your ignorance sake. Loving and living my life the way you want, and frilling my knees is like a debt I'm paying for loving you. I remember the vengeance burning in my veins when you keep saying that every fault is mine. Right. You get tired of it. I remember how it agonized me every single time you tell me that I never confessed my mistakes, and the countless times you humiliated me, and how I asked politely afterward to treat me better, scowling at me every time I get forgetful and not caring about you. It's out of my hands, no matter how many times I justify it for you. Do you see the words being said in this point, this diatribe here, and how important it is to make the point that the anguish, like there's the good part you could say at the beginning to validate and to justify why you were in the relationship, when some women will not even realize how bad things were in the whole entire time of the relationship. And even if you had other men that were interested in you, that probably might have been also very toxic, because When you fall out of that toxic relationship, the problem is there are women that are going to fall into the same pattern. Another man with very similar traits, very similar styles, it'll be the same trap again. And women don't understand that. There's a lot of them that don't realize that this is going to happen to them. And then she says that I also remember you putting it above me and above everything we build together, above our promises of never working out on one another, agreeing I can never come near your pride. Siding with you against all the world, but you let me down when we were trying to take our first step of spending eternity together. Condoning all my morality because I thought you were one in a lifetime exception. I remember giving you so much. And it's amazing that at this point, I mean, I have all the respect and admiration and love for a woman that if she was in the right relationship and she was able to give herself so much and overcompensating for what wasn't her fault. Like a woman that has that kind of love, any other man in a healthy relationship would adore and appreciate this woman and would wife her. Do you understand? There is something to be said about a woman that is this loving and gives this much. And why there are some guys that feel like they need to go ahead and go narcissistic and manipulative just to get a girl to do this. Well, the truth is, if you did right by her, you would still be able to get a woman like her. The problem is that the approach from the beginning and the hypocrisy from the beginning, because you know that what you're offering her is only going to be for a short while. And so you put this out there to say, oh, you know what? Let's see if she's going to say anything about it. Well, look what happens. Yep, incredible. So anyway, we look at this here, and you can see she's really trying her hardest to kind of hold on and try to not show so much. She mentions biting her tongue, disregarding everything that hurt because I can't stand one more fight with you. Unable to bear my sadness. Picking up after a fight after I had a good day and came back from a good outing, making me feel happiness misfits me. And the guys that have no regard for doing this to a woman. Women need to see the red flags, and guys don't need to be acting like this. For what temporary enjoyment do you get out of this? And then you have to ask yourself, why is a woman falling into this trap? The woman here has to ask herself, Sarah has to ask herself, what was it that brought you here? What led you to this? And what can you do to not have to change yourself? Because healing yourself doesn't require that you need to change and make drastic changes about yourself to make you feel better about yourself, that you feel like you need to change who you are. No, embrace all the emotional wounds, all the emotional trauma that you've gone through. Find out that you've come out of it on the other side with your reservations, but you don't change who you are. You accept what all that experience has made you and what you've become. And don't change who you are. Don't change your morals, and don't change, what might have brought you here. You just become smarter about what happens, but you don't change this level of love, this level of compassion. Just because it went to the wrong person doesn't mean you deny this to the next guy. You heal yourself, and then you allow yourself to be this kind of woman for the right guy. Does that make sense? That's what you have to do. And I appreciate her telling the story about this and explaining it. There's so much more she writes here, but she closes out and says, I won't deny the way you left me, and I won't deny the fact that your love made me despise the whole idea of loving someone else or loving at all. I even despise the fact that love now has to be directed to myself and no other thing but myself. Read that again. Women, please pay attention to this. Your love, this narcissistic, manipulative love, this fake love, makes her despise the whole idea of loving someone else or loving at all. And she despises the fact that love now has to be directed to myself and no other thing but myself. How many boss babes are out there? How many women that are, oh, I'm strong, I'm independent, I'll do what I want, I don't need a man? How many of them fell into this trap right here? And because of a man being toxic and narcissistic and manipulative, being in the minority, these guys doing this to a woman. And by the way, we need to correct the fact that there are nice guys. There are guys out there that have been screwed over. Maybe they've been screwed over by women, but that doesn't mean that they get to take it out on other women and using them as an example or using them as, a punching bag for your suffering. Both people need to figure that out. So this message is for women. I love you. Please understand what she says right here. That right there is key to everything. I'll tell you what. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That's a perfect way to go and end this discussion. Thanks for listening in. And remember, even after you come out of a relationship like this, it's all right if you come out of it a little depraved and debaucherous.